back. Wartime Super Chulin, 105. In the schus of the soldiers, in the schus of the captives, in the schus of the yeshiva, in the schus of the family, in the schus that we continue coming together, Shtagin Taira. We are on Chulin Daf Chaf Ches Amud Aleph. Just kidding. Chaf Ches Amud Bayis. But we might go back to see the Mishnah, just because we like to do Chazara on the Mishnah, just to kind of get hands and feet, you know? So we go to the Mishnah, and this Mishnah, actually, we have to go back to Chav Zayin Amud Aleph. It's the first Mishnah in the parak. And the Mishnah says, Hashochet, someone who's shechting, Echad be'of, b'shnayim be'behema. So you have to cut one in the chicken and two in the animal. And what do you mean one and two? Simanim. What are the simanim? Very good. AKA windpipe, food pipe and windpipe. Very good. And so the shechita is kosher. And we spoke last year about echad be'of specifically. Does it have to be specifically the esophagus, or it could be either one? And we showed that it could be either one. And then it says, rubo ka'echad kamahu. If you do the rove of one, we know rubo kekulo. If you do the majority of one, so it's as if you did the entire one. So you just need rove echad in a poultry and rov shtayim in an animal. Rabbi Yehuda says, Ad sheyishchot es havridin, until you cut the veins. And so that is what we're going to discuss today in Shir, until you cut the veins. We know that in the neck, aside from having a trachea and esophagus, which we hear zochet to see in real life, there are also veins in the neck carrying blood, ostensibly, from the body to the head. So, if we see the handy-dandy oat book, Avimar, you take this out. Here, you guys can come closer, so I don't have to scream so much, but it's okay also. So we see that's the kaneh, that is the trachea that is connected to the lungs, and it brings air in and out. When the rooster's cock-a-doodle-doo, he's using the air is coming through the trachea. But what about when the rooster goes and eats some food? So that's going through the veshet, the esophagus. That's the food pipe. And borei nefashos, rabos v'chesronam. It's unbelievable that the wind goes down this one, the food goes down this one. They're basically the same place.
And everything knows where to go.
Niflos habore. Now here is a vreed. There are actually two, one on each side, I think. Big veins in the neck of the chicken. And Rabbi Yehuda holds, here, you guys want to come closer? Rabbi Yehuda holds that you have to actually sever the vein as well in the neck of the chicken or the neck of the poultry. And so we say that if you do, just to theorize the Mishnah, chetzi echad be'of ve'echad bechetzi ve'behema. So you have half of one in the bird and 1.5 in the behema, in the animal. Shchitaso pasula. So we find here something interesting. I keep on mentioning this in Shir because I like to think about this idea. It's very interesting that if you're shechting an animal and you shecht 100% of one and 49% of the other, or 150. So you did 150 out of 200, puzzle. But if you shechted 51 and 51, which is only 102 out of 200, so, right, because it's 51% kosher.
You're saying 50 is not enough, it has to be 51%?
What?
You're saying 50 is not enough, it has to be 51%?
Yeah, chetzi not enough, but even if it's 50.0001, it's enough. It's kol shehu is enough. So that's what, so it goes back and it says rov echad be'of v'rov shnayim bevehema. Over here, over here. So that was Avi Mairi with his tzitzis, Hasidish style over his shirt. Very proud. So the Mishnah ends, it says, Rov echad be'of v'rov shnayim bevehema. That is kosher. So Rashi pointed out that the Gemara Parich, the Gemara is going to ask Hatanila Resha, that the first statement was saying echad be'ov shnayim bevehema shritaz basula, and rov of one is like it. So then why do you have to go back at the end and say rov echad be'ov rov shnayim bevehema? It seems redundant. And so the Gemara is going to get to that as well. So now we turn to 28b, and we go, I think, 8 lines down, 9 lines down, and we see Rabbi Yehuda Omer ad sheyishcho. Rabbi Yehuda says until you shecht. And remember, it's a shecht, the vridin, the veins. Amar Rav Chisda, says Rav Chisda, lo Amar Rabbi Yehuda ela be'of. So Tosfos actually told us that is only talking about the vein. The vein clause is only talking about the bird, only talking about the poultry. Ela ba'of. Why? Hoil vitzolehu kulo ke'echad. Since you can burn it all as one. And what does that remind us of today, Erev Pesach? Korban Pesach. That we burn it.
Also, we do beer chametz tonight.
Oh, you beer chametz today.
We do a search for that.
Nice.
We can't do it Saturday, we can't do it Friday night.
Yeah, it's a great Nakuda. So Leu Kulo. So since people would shech the bird and then just roast the entire thing as one. Kulo ka'echad. Aval behema, but an animal, which is normally kevan she minatcha aver, since the way that you usually do it, its normal way of preparation is cutting it piece from piece. Lo tzarech, you don't need to cut the vein. Very interesting, because what is the havamina? Like, why? First of all, why does how I prepare the animal after I shecht it make a difference of what I do during the shrita?
Once it's shechted.
Yeah, if it's shechted, it's shechted. If it's not shechted, so who cares? I prepare it afterwards.
Right.
That's my cue. That is my question. Okay, so Lememra, to say the time of the Rebbe Yehuda, the reason for Rebbe Yehuda loves muksa. It's like his favorite halacha. The reason of Rebbe Yehuda, Mishum Dam, the reason is because of the blood, meaning it's not even a din in the shchita, it's a din in something to do with blood. Zer and Shasan, something to do with blood. Over here. So the Hatanan, I was going to say in a two nuns, so it's a Mishnah, two nuns Mishnah. The Hatanan doesn't say in a Shkayach. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, Ad sheyishchot es havridin, until you shecht the the veins, right? And it says v'hatanan, and we recognize that from actually our very Mishnah, right? Tanan, teaching our Mishnah v'hatanan, that says until you shecht the vridin, ema ad sheyakev es havridin. So Rabbi Yehuda, you have to shecht the vridin. So that's mashma that the vrid is a din in the shchita. Ema, if it's just a din in releasing the blood, ema ad sheyenakev es havridin, say until the vrid is punctured, right? The word nikuv is a hole, and that's where nekevas get their name from, because that's that's their mas, to bring babies into the world. And even though a woman doesn't have a chiyuv of pruruvu, she does have a chiyuv of lo tohu bara the sheves yatra. And so, making sure that the world is inhabited, a woman does have that chiyuv, and a keva has. So until the vein gets a hole, my ad sheyishchot es hanet ad shein. So the Gemara says, what do you mean ad sheyishchot? We're saying ad sheyishchot. We're not talking about shchita. What we mean to say is ad shein nakev, until it gets pierced. B'shas shchita, at the time of shchita. So this is what the Gemara is doing. We quoted the Mishnah, the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. We quoted an Amora who qualifies the statement of the Tana Rabbi Yehuda and says that he's only talking about chicken or birds because you would burn it all. And so you have to get rid of all the blood. You don't cut it. Since you burn it whole, you have to make sure to cut that vein or else the blood's going to be inside. But with an animal, since the way that a person does it is that they cut it piece from piece, so the blood's going to go out anyways. It's not going to get stuck in there. And so the Gemara says to that assessment, to that qualification of Rav Chisda, the Gemara asks a question. Lememra, that is to say that the taima of Rabbi Yehuda is because of blood. But doesn't our very Mishnah say that Rabbi Yehuda Omer until you shecht the vridin? Now the Gemara, it brings Rabbi Yehuda Omer ad sheyishchot es havridin. Rabbi Yehuda Omer ad sheyishchot es havridin. It's a 7-word statement, right? Ad sheyishchot es havridin. So then we don't know, and that's sometimes Rashi will tell you. Sometimes Rashi will tell us what it means, what the diuk is. But here, even before we see Rashi, we know what the diuk is. The diuk is a sheyishchot, implying that piercing, that the cutting of the vein is not a din, is in fact a din in shchita, and not just a din in piercing the vein to release the blood. So from a diuk in our Mishnah, it says yishchot, implying that it's part of the shchita. So if it's a part of the shchita, then how could you tell me there's a difference between animal and bird? Answers the Gemara, Ema, rather say that what's the pshat of yishchot? Sheyenakev b'shas shchita, that it gets pierced at the time of shchita. So he maintains the diuk, but he's saying it's lav dafka, meaning that's part of the shchita. It's the time of the shchita, you got to puncture it to let out the blood of the bird.
What if it's punctured afterwards? Then it's not good?
What do you mean afterwards?
I guess if it's sliced, it's punctured.
Yeah. But you have to make sure to get that also according to Rabbi Yehuda.
What do you mean also?
Aside from rove of either the kanet or the veshet, you also have to get the vrid. And I think we saw that in the Rambam and Rashi and Tosfos that it could be that some people paskin that we need to cut the vrid even nowadays. And it could be that the Ramah brings that day, but the Mishulchan Aruch says. But we'll see. We have the things here. We'll go in the halacha. We because we shouldn't saw this in the Mishnah, so we've been talking about this, and now we're going deeper. Tashma. Vridin b'shchita divrei Rabbi Yehuda. So the vridin got to be shechted, says Rabbi Yehuda. That's a good tashma. Tashma, they're arguing this, they're analyzing this in the base medrash, right? In Babylon. Oh no, sorry. In Eretz Yisrael, is Rabbi Yehuda. This is a machlokes of the Tanaim. So they're in Eretz Yisrael, and they say, and so we're not sure how to make a deal in our Mishnah. It says, Ad sheyishchod, until you shecht the vein. But then Rav Chisda comes and says, no, the reason is because to release the blood. It's not actually part of the shechita. So now everyone in the base medrash is like, what's the answer? Everyone wants to know. One of the rabbis, I don't know if everyone had the chance to talk back then in Shir, probably big base medrashes, and I don't know if everyone, but one of the rabbis in the Gemara, they don't even say who it is here. They just say this was brought in the Gemara. Tashma, come in here. You want to know the answer? Come in here. I'll show you. It says vridin b'shchita divrei Rabbi Yehuda. What is that implying? That the vridin is b'shchita. That seems like a good raya for Rav Chisda, who said, oh no, it's a question against Rav Chisda, because Rav Chisda said the reason was to let out the blood. But here it implies that it's mamish part of the shechita. Comes right to ema vridin. So this is the answer now. We see ema. When you see Gemara, it's important to pick up on these things. It says lememra, trying to make a deal. It says ema, say rather, right? And so then they bring a tashma. Ema, rather say, not your induction that vridin b'shchita means that it's part of the shchita. Ema, say rather that what the pshat is vridin tzarich lenakvan b'shas shchita. So that's what Rabbi Yehuda says. And that's how Rav Chisda would have to explain if he's saying that the whole vridin thing is only about letting out the blood. By the way, eating the blood, this is the big difference between shchita and halal. Is that after we do shchita, we soak it for a half hour, salt it for a half hour or something like that. I don't know exactly the times, we're still learning. Halal, I think they also do a shchita.
In the same way, but they don't.
I think it's a similar way. What's similar between halal and shchita is that we have the animal shechted in a way that it releases blood, right? Now, there is a group that their minhag, their tradition, their mahalach in shchita was to do the animal upside down so that the blood seeps in. You know what that was? Tartarians. That was the Tartarian shchita. That was people say, well, what's Tartarian? Okay, so there you're not going to hear about it in mainstream books. Because they're barbaric, they're crazy, they're worse, but the Tartarians were nuts. The Tartarians during the Black Plague, which obviously was started by the Shibud Roman Catholic Vatican Satan worshippers, Sunday daveners. But the Black Plague, when it happened, Tartaria was fighting against the Romans, and they got all these things, so they would catapult. This was one of the first instances of chemical warfare in history. They would catapult the corpses riddled with the Black Plague, and that's right, the people that died. So that's just a little bit of Tartaria. So we want to let out the blood. Say they have to puncture it. Okay, in the time of the shechita. Tashma. Amrullah, they said to him, the Rabbi Yehuda. They said to Rabbi Yehuda, Me'achar shelo huzkaru vridin ela lo hotzi mehem dan mali b'shchita, mali shelo b'shchita. This is Avi Meiri's question of what about if they do it not at the time of shchita? The only reason is to want to let out the blood. Okay, without seeing what the answer is going to be, I have a theory. Does anyone else have a theory? Why might it be better anyways to puncture them at the time of the shechita rather than to leave them full and then wait and then puncture them a minute later, 2 minutes later. Boker Tov, Groovy.
Maybe because you don't know otherwise. Maybe it could congeal.
Yeah, maybe it could congeal. Maybe when the blood is hot and it's still flowing and you get it out, so then it will all come out. But if you wait a minute and the blood's just sitting there, maybe it will cool off. It won't really flow in the same way. Okay, let's see. Mali dam b'shchita, mali shlo b'shchita. So what's the difference if it's in the time of shchita, if it's not in the time of shchita? Michlal, who remembers what michlal means? We infer from here, michlal, very good. Michlal, we infer the Rebbe Yehuda savar b'shchita. The Rebbe Yehuda holds that it's part of the shchita. Because what else would it make a difference? Why else would it make a difference if it was in the time of shchita? If it was not in the time of shchita, if it's just to release the blood, it must be, says the Gemara in the Havamina, that he holds that the Rebbe Yehuda holds that cutting the vein in the shchita is actually part of the shchita. And for the Gemara, Hachi Ka'amri. Hachi Ka'amri, the Gemara says. This is what it's saying. Hachi Ka'amri. Or lay. Ma li linakvan b'shas shchita, ma li linakvan b'shas shalo b'shas shchita. What's the difference if I puncture during the slaughter or if I puncture ex post shachto? And for the Gemara, Vihu Savar, it's because he holds B'shas Shchita, at the time of Shchita. Asidam Dechayim. Shalo B'shas Shchita, Asidam Dekarir. Very good. We were Mechavein. We were Zochet to be Mechavein to the Gemara that Asi Dekarir will get cold. It will congeal. But in Shas Shchita, what do they call it? They don't call it hot blood. They call it the blood of life. Now, Dam Dechayim, the blood of life. We have another word for blood, right? When you cut and the blood that spritzes out, what's that called? Dam She Hanefesh Yotzeispo. Right? And that seems to be this, similar to this dam d'chayim, the dam of life, the blood that his life comes out with. Dam is the nefesh. The dam sugya, the blood sugya, is an incredibly important sugya to understand. We know that our enemies consume blood as part of their ritual, and we know that they've blamed it on us time and time again. The eponymous blood libels perpetrated by the same Shibud Malchias that did the Black Plague and that did 9/11 and that did the pandemic and the fake moon landing and that the whole globe hoax with the Jesuits. Okay, lo asidam akarir, right? But this is not shalom is not as shchita lo asidam. The blood's not going to flow out because it cooled out already. It's not animate anymore. It's not flowing through the body. Ma'am Avimari definitely has been at a tish or two with some Be Ma'am Be Ma'am By Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yirmiyah is a favorite. Is Yeshiva School Show favorite because he got kicked out of yeshiva for asking too many questions. So let's see what Jeremiah is up to this day. And by the way, we call him Rebbe Yirmiyah, which implies that he was in Eretz Yisrael, even though he was born in Bavel, came to Eretz Yisrael.
How do you know that that's called Rebbe?
I don't know. That's just we've seen it. We've seen the stories. And it just says Reish. But we call him Rebbe Yirmiyah. And even though he's an Amora, and the reason is because he was from Eretz Israel. I'm married to do Chazara on the story of Rebbe Yirmiyah. So, Rivka, do you remember? When I tell it? Okay. So, Rebbe Yirmiyah was in the base medrash, and they were learning at the Hilchos Eruvin at the time. Learning Maseches Eruvin. And so, they were learning about like 200 meal, or 200, they're learning about Tchum, right? 2,000 Amos, whatever it is. And if you're in the Tchum, if you're out of the Tchum, in the Erev, out of the Erev. And so Rabbi Yirmiyah was asking, what if you have 1 foot in and 1 foot out? And he was asking all of these types of Chakira questions. And instead of doing what I hope that I, as a teacher, as a Rebbe, as a Rashiva, I hope that if someone's asking like those good questions, I'm able to like be like, oh, it's a great question. And we have to see the Rabbi Yirmiyah story inside before we really pass any judgment on anyone in that story. But picked him up, hands and feet, belt strap, Hiram Lodge style, and threw him out of the base medrash. Hiram Lodge, Rabbi Yirmiyah is like, no problem, goes to Eretz Yisrael and becomes today the great Rabbi Yirmiyah. We all know every word he ever utters glows forever with an eternal glow. By Rav Yirmiyah asked a question as he was wont to do. Vridin the Rabbi Yehuda, Shah ben Daras ben Mahu. Rabbi Yirmiyah was the biggest Talmud Chacham. I love the way his brain works. He was so creative. Rabbi Yirmiyah says, you want to know if it's really a din in shchita or just letting out the blood? Let's look at it like this. Shah ben, what if you balked? What if you waited too long, and then right? Or what if you daras them? What if you did the proper motion, the proper back and forth, like Jack Kevorkian's rear end to court? You went back and forth, right? On the kana and veshet. But then when it came to the vein, you lopped it. Jerry, it's the east side lapa, Jerry. So what if you did shah or daras, mahu? What's the case? So now we'll really find out if it's a din in shchita or a din in hotzas hadam, getting rid of the blood. Amar le hahu saba. I love when hahu saba comes in. I don't know if it's the same guy every time or it's a different random old person, but some random elder, hahu saba, says to him, Hachi ka'amar Rabbi Elazar. This is what Rabbi Elazar said. Va'amri la. And some people say, Amar la hahu saba li Rabbi Elazar. And some people say that the Gramps was saying to Rabbi Elazar, Hachi amar Rabbi Yochanan. This is what Rabbi Yochanan was talking about. Minakvan bekots vein kisherin. Even if you puncture them with a stick, they're kosher. With a thorn, they're kosher. Tanya kavasei derav chesta. So that was the discussion so far, trying to figure out if Rav Chista's Okimta, Rav Chista was trying to establish Rabbi Yehuda's statement as only for letting out the blood. And we've seen so far a few tashmas trying to prove it this way and that way. And we're going to see it again with Rashi. We saw a few different opinions. And now the Gemara brings the Tanya Kavasei, the Rav Chista, that we have a brisa like Rav Chista. We brought a few Mishnah. We brought our Mishnah, analyzing it, trying to say against Rav Chista, trying to say, look, Rav Chista, they use the word shchita. It's not just to let out blood; it's to actually do the shechting. But Rav Chista was able to valiantly fight back and answer up everything. And now we have Tanya Kavasei Rav Chista, a brisa that is like Rav Chista, Shachat chetzi shnei chatzai simanim ba'ov pasol. The chicken, all he needs is 51% out of 200. But as long as the 51% is coming out of one, it has to be half of rov echad. So what if you did 50 and 50 in the chicken? Puzzle, exactly. It's puzzle. It's not gonna. And you'll even have to say in an animal. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, Be'of ad sheyishchot es haveshet v'es havridin. When it comes to a bird, until you shecht the veshet and the vridin. Wait a second, the veshet. Is that going back to the earlier machlokas that there was an opinion that it had to be mamish, the veshet, and it couldn't be either or, even though we came in paskin either or. Is Rabbi Yehuda saying it has to be the veshet? Okay, now it's time to see the Rashi. Come, let us see the Rashi, known for his beauty, splendor, and grace. Come, let us find the words to describe him. He like no other face. The Rashi, a place to steig. The Rashi, but she was still alive. Okay. Amar Rav Chisda, Lo Amar Rabbi Yehuda Ela Be'of. So immediately Rav Chisda is on the defense. Why? Because he's trying to tell us a part of something from our Mishnah which is not there. Our Mishnah doesn't say that it's only in the bird. So Rav Chisda is saying that Rabbi Yehuda didn't say only in a bird. That's called an akimta. And if you're going to make an akimta, Rav Chisda, you're going to have to come barrels loaded. You're going to have to come be able to protect your assertion. He says, and the reason is because all of it's solu kulo ka'echad, it's burnt all at once. But an animal is not burned all at once, except a korban pesach. Since we do nituach, we cut it eve. We cut it limb from limb. Lo tzarich. You don't need to make sure that you cut the vein. Okay, let's see Rashi. Since the bird is roasted all at once, therefore tzarich lahotzi is kol damo. Therefore, you got to get rid of all the blood. You can't leave these big juicy veins, and then you're going to end up burning it, and then you're going to end up having blood stew. That the goyim, they eat blood stew sometimes.
In England, it's Jeremy about it.
Really?
Oh yeah, there's blood pie.
Blood pie.
That's what they eat. That's like the coolest meal, best meal in London.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I think that I would love to have it, but what am I going to do? Because Hashem said no. So tzarich lahotzi as kol damo. And the favorite meal of London City is that, but baby. But we know London City, that's where the Queen and all of those big time Shibud dynasty families that are all pedophiles. And if I would say this 5 years ago, people would say, what, you're calling the royal family pedophiles? But now the people that would have said that last year have to be very humble and say, okay, we know that Prince Andrew is a pedophile. And we know that we also saw people jumping out of the royal palace naked, trying to escape. Okay. So it says, so this is of a Hatanan. So it's very good to know that there's a Mishnah now. Because we said the Memra, you're saying that the reason of Rabbi Yehuda is just because of the blood? Veha Tanan. What is that Veha doing? Right? If it's a Ditanan, it would be as it says in Raisa, or as it says in Mishnah. What is Veha Tanan?
And as it says in the Mishnah.
Veha Tanan. Ve, so you got the end. What's the ha? Veha Tanan. But doesn't it say in the Mishnah? It's a question. Veha Tanan. Doesn't it say in the Mishnah? Ad sheyishchot esav ridin, until he shechts the veins, and if he's shechting the vein, it's implying that the vein is a din in shchita, not just a din in getting rid of the blood. Ad sheyishchot v'lo liznehu b'shchita ela mishum hotzas dam. And you're saying, Rav Chesta, that it's only because of releasing the blood, b'nekiva be'alma, with a hole in the Ba'alma Saga. All you need is just a pierce. All you need is just a pierce defense, a Paul Pierce. The answer. What's the answer? A pierce. All you need is to pierce it to let out blood. But wait a second. V'hatanan, it says ad sheyishchot. Ema ad sheyenakev. Say until you pierce it. Until you pierce the vridin. But wait a second, but you can't just do whatever you want, Rav Chista. Rav Chista, the Mishnah says ad sheyishchot until you shech it. Oh, say it says ad sheyenakev. Wow, Rav Chista, that would have been a great thing to say if it didn't say ad sheyishchot. Umay ad sheyishchot. And so Rav Chista ad sheyenakev b'shas shchita. That the pierce has to happen at the time of shchita. B'shas shchita, says Rashi, a little. I don't want to say spoiler, but he gives a little hint that what's the thing going to be. It says Shadam Cham v'yotze. So at the time of shchita, there are two elements of the blood, two things that the blood does that it won't do after the shchita. One is that it's not hot, and two is that it's not flowing. And so you can't wait to pierce.
It has to be hot?
It has to be flowing. It has to be still like the lifeblood, the dam cham.
Is that ultimately halacha?
L'chora. So we see, if you take a look in the Gemara, we see that the Ein Mishpat Ner Mitzvah puts a little letter by Ad Sheyenakev, right? So that tells us that it's likely. I mean, obviously, still we got to see the Rambam inside, but that takes us up to the Ein Mishpat Ner Mitzvah, who actually, it's actually amazing. What an unbelievable moment this is. Who actually brings the Ein Mishpat Ner Mitzvah, and you go to Daled, and in this case, he doesn't bring the Rambam. He only brings the Shulchan Aruch in Yoredeya. Simin Chav Beis Aleph. That could be that this is a machlokas, and the Rambam doesn't hold it, and so some people in the Shulchan Aruch brings it, but some people don't maybe. So we got to go inside exactly what. Remember, but we said that there was this machlokas over here, the Rambam, the different opinions about do you actually have to cut the vrid. So here we get a hint already that the Rambam doesn't talk about this. Actually, not give us a vrid, and the Rambam doesn't mention it, but someone does in the Shulchan Aruch. So. Umayachi Yishra Achi Yinko B'Shas Shchita, at the time of Shchita. Tashma, come in here. Come and listen. Breathing B'Shchita Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. It's like open and shut case. Rav Chista is getting pummeled here. You know, everyone's saying, Rav Chista, like, what did you even? It's very, very concise, obvious thing. It says Vridin b'shchita. Vridin b'shchita. No, the Rabbi Yehuda, aim of reading Tzarech Lenagva B'Shas Shchita. So it's another akimta. Say that this is what it really means. Tashma, covered here. Tashma, covered. Listen. Amrulo l'Rebbe Yehuda. They said to him, to Rebbe Yehuda, in the base measures, they said, hey, Rebbe Yehuda, Me'acher shalohas karuv reading. What does me'acher mean? No. From after. So, from after. That idea of from after means it means something else also. I don't know if I'm explaining it. I'll just tell you what I mean. Since. Me'acher, from after, since, following, right? Following this and that. Me'acher, by the way, me'acher, since. But mechamer is one of the things you bring Korban Pesach from outside the Tchum. You're just bringing it. It could be a malacha. You would think it's mechamer, right? So, are you allowed to do it on Pesach or not? On Shabbos, sorry, Pesach that falls out on Shabbos. So, are you allowed to do it?
Yes.
Why?
Because so
So maybe that's the reason to say yes, but there's another reason to say no, maybe, and that reason would be is the klal that Rabbi Akiva said, "Kol malacha she'efshar la'asosa me'erev Shabbos, eino docha es Shabbos. Kol malacha she'efshar la'asosa me'erev Shabbos, docha es Shabbos."
The fact that there's a malacha in the base of Mikdash.
So in the base of Mikdash, you have things that you're allowed to do. That's mamish and malacha, like shchita. But then you have things in Shvus to Mikdash. But this is mamish malacha. It's not even Shvus. Shvus derbanan. But then you have something which is only Shvus in the Mikdash, like taking off a boil that it had on it, and you can't do it. So they try to say, "What kaf chomer? This is deoraisa. This is the malacha deoraisa, and you're allowed to do it. Ain't no din that you should be allowed to do take out the boil." And so I don't know the answer if you can bring it from outside the tchum, but I know that we spoke two sides. Maybe yes, maybe no.
So, then this isn't really a good reason because they can override it, but it's also Drabanan against the Daraisa.
Right.
The Rabbanan can.
Yeah, but like the person doesn't have. The person doesn't have a Korban Pesach. Yeah, we're gonna tell him. Oh, sorry. There's a derabanan, and so don't bring a korban Pesach. But we do that by shofar, right? So it's big sugyas. Maybe you join another group. We also know that if Erev Pesach falls out on Shabbos like it does this year, and it turns out on Shabbos and you lost your Korban Pesach or you didn't buy one for some reason, you can buy one on Shabbos. You can buy one on Shabbos, and the Gemara tells us, how do you buy it on Shabbos? Well, either someone you know, then you can just make the deal. But what if someone doesn't trust you? Give him collateral. Good old-fashioned barter. So they said to Rabbi Yehuda, since they didn't mention Vridin El Lohotzi Mehem Dam, they didn't mention veins except for letting blood out. Mali b'shchita, mali shalo b'shchita. So like, why do I care that it's in time of shchita or not? And that the fact they asked him that question, says the Gemara, Mechlal, we can infer from the fact they asked him the question, the Rabbi Yehuda holds b'shchita. And so the Gemara, Hachi Kamri lay. This is what they were saying to him. They were saying to him, Mali l'nakvan b'shashchita. So again, he's going back to his mahalach, that when it says b'shchita, it just means the time of the shchita, not actually as part of the shchita. Mali l'nakvan shelo b'shashchita. So what's the difference, this one and that one? time of shechita, not time of shechita, it's just to get rid of the blood. What's the difference what time you open up the vein? Says Rashi, that is to say, Ein chiyus teluya behen. The life of the animal doesn't matter whether or not you cut the vein. Cutting the vein has to do with the pipes. Ve'ein tzarich lazkiro. You don't have to mention it. Elam mishum dam. The only reason that he mentioned it is because of the blood. Lama ata mazkiro shchita. So why are you mentioning shchita? Why are you talking about shchita? Matzrichina. Why do you need it? Why do you say it's part of the thing that you need to do as part of the shchita process? If it's just to get rid of blood, so then why is it part of the shchita process? That's what the Gemara answers. The Gemara asks, Hachi Amri, what's the difference if I cut them? This is what they ask him, what's the difference if you puncture them at the time of the shchita? What's the difference if you puncture them afterwards? V'hu savar, and he holds, B'shas shchita asidam dechayim, shelo b'shas shchita, lo asidam dekarir. Okay, it's like this. At the time of shechita, the blood comes. It flows. Why? Because it's live blood. But at that time of shechita, the blood doesn't come. Why? Because it's cold. Now, we have a phrase in English that could illuminate this Gemara when it says, "Oh, you can grab that out of," right? Ruvain says, "You can grab that out of me." Ruvain's cold dead hands. Cold, dead. We see that the body gets colder when it dies. Mm-hmm. The reason is because it's not a factory. It's not working anymore. Everything is just still and it cools off. When the blood is flowing, it's cold. It's warm. Mm-hmm. So now when they say that someone is cold-blooded, like a reptile is cold-blooded, does that mean that his blood doesn't flow in the same way? I don't know. Rivka, what do you think? I have a science question. Yeah. So if there were no girls here, I could just pretend to be sheevish and pretend to know something. But we have a science girl here. You know? Science girl number 2. Yeah, so the question is cold-blooded reptiles called cold-blooded because of the lack of circulation of blood in them? Does that have to do with it? Because it says here that's carrier. It's cold. Yeah, and it talks about alive versus cold.
I was wondering about that because cold things tend to solidify. And so how is it that we call reptiles cold-blooded if
All right. So we got to figure that out. It's a good thing to blind on. If you want to look it up, maybe tell me before the end of share, we can get an answer in about why animals are called cold-blooded. But based on this Gemara, I would say maybe it's din in their blood circulation. By Rabbi Yirmiyah. All right, our guide, Jeremiah, was a rabbi. He was an old friend of mine. I'm ready.
Cold-blooded animals can't regulate their temperature according to the surroundings. So our temperature is always 98.6.
Because of the...
No matter where we are. If we're in freezing temperature, we're burning temperature, always 98.6.
Because of the internal process.
Equilibrium, yeah.
But cold-blooded animals...
The body temperature fluctuates as they move in different surroundings with different temperatures. They don't have a constant body temperature.
That is so interesting. So we call them cold.
But they still have...
And that's why they can't survive in extreme temperatures.
If you cut one, will it still bleed? Is it like a Jew?
Sounds like it still has circulation in the same way.
Or is it like a golem?
The blood temperature is not constantly 98, so it's not always warm.
Blood temperature, I don't know. I still think that maybe it has something to do with the circulation, but I hear. Okay. Asidam, Dikaria. What about the circulation of these things? And also, by the way, it could be that I know nothing about science. That is very sheepish. So I don't know. I remember once learning, but I don't know. I don't know about the blood circulation of these animals. Shah behen. Shah behen. V'daras behen. So Rabbi Yirmiyah says, what if you do a psul shchita on the vein? Daras behen mahu. Shchita mamish by Rabbi Yehuda Olav. That's the question. Does he mamish? Shchita mamish? Does he mamish actually need a shchita in it or not? And how can we figure it out? Well, what if he does an improper technique to cut the vein? Do we need shchita mamish or not? Rabbi Yirmiyah lo shmiya le'ad Rav Chisda. Rabbi Yirmiyah didn't hear that thing from Rav Chisda. And the reason could be is because Rav Chisda was in, where was Rav Chisda? Babylon. Rav Chisda? But Avi Mari, please take a look at that Rashi that he spells out the Reish. And he doesn't just say Reish Chupchik, but he says V'Rebbe Yirmiyah Lo Shmiya Le'laha De Rav Chisda. Right? So he accentuates that fact that Rebbe Yirmiyah and Rav Chisda, they didn't know each other. What? Rebbe Yirmiyah is going to know about what's going on in his hometown of Babylon? Okay, so he didn't know yet about that. And he's just asking the question, right? He's like, is this Rabbi Yirmiyah mamish need a shchita or not? Rav Chisda in Bavel, he kind of just said it as a statement. Rabbi Yehuda didn't say only in a chicken, since it gets burnt completely, and if it didn't, removing the blood. Rabbi Yirmiyah here comes with a different approach. He comes with the approach of asking a question. He doesn't say a statement and then get a barrage of questions and shlugs, but he asks as a question. He says, what about the psuls of shchita? Do they apply to the vein? Mahu. Amar Leahu Saba, said that old guy, Haki Amar Rabbi Elazar. Amri Elazar, people say that the old guy said to Rabbi Elazar, here's what Rabbi Yochanan said. Menakvan Bekos, even if you poke them with a thorn, they would be kosher. So that would imply that it has nothing to do with the shchita. Not only could you do a lopping or a pausing, any of the psulei shchita, but you don't even have to use a knife. You could just take some toothpick. What does a shaykhet use to clean his teeth? A shaykhet used to clean his teeth. A koot pick could cut. One of the biggest stretches, you know.
Only if he's adorable.
And it's a cupid. Nice, that's better. The adorable. Nice. Yo, shkayach. That was what they call an alley-oop.
It's a saying.
Mechza, so they say like this. Okay, thank you, Sharon. So we see that Rabbi Yirmiyah asked this great question, and some old guy gave him a great answer. Tanya Kavaseder Rav Chisda. So now we have a brisa that's like Rav Chisda and like Rabbi Yirmiyah. Shachat chet shnei chatzai simanin. Now, by the way, why does Rav Yirmiyah get top billing over Rav Chisda here? Because Talmud Bavli in the end of the day, you know. So Tanya Kavaseder Rav Chisda, the brisa like Rav Chisda. Even though they could have also said Tanya Kavaseder Rav Yirmiyah. Shachat shnei chatzai simanin ba'ov puzzle. If you shecht to 50%, two of the pipes put 50%, it's puzzle. Ve'ein tzarich lomar bevehema. I want to bevehema. But wait a second, I thought it's called the behema. Yeah, but now when it gets a bays before it.
What is the base for? In?
Be, yeah, like in a behema. So be'ov bevehema, it's pronounced. Just a random lesson in grammar that I learned from Rebbe V'Mayri Rav Nisanal Lauer Shlita.
I was going to say the grammar king.
Who?
Your grammar Rebbe.
Oh, that guy in the north?
In the north, yeah.
No, this I learned from Rabbi Lauer Haredi. Who's not supposed to know about grammar. But when did we, because, and it was about, Avi Meir mentioned this, we're doing Bidika Chametz tonight. Bividika o Bividika o Bivitol. Bividika o Bivitol. I don't know. I'm going to put them together. Anywho, Bivehema. Ain't there Lomar? It's a be'ov. Ain't there Lomar Bivehema? Rabbi Yehuda Omer be'ov aji yishchan esavesef esafridin. So this brisa goes like Rav Chisda that says that you got to cut what vridin, both veins. So let's see. Shachat mechza mechza kasa gedaitach. When the Gemara says kasa gedaitach, it means that it rose up on our mind to say, meaning hava. I would have said. Kasa gedaitach le'inyin shchita ka'amar. He's talking about that. It's about shchita kelaimar. That is to say, simin shechetzav shachar v'chetzav eno shachar. Half of it is sliced, half is not sliced. Havi ki'ilo rubo shachar v'kosher. It's as if the majority is shechted and it's kosher. So this is a Tanya Kavasei to Rav Chisda. It says that if you shech two halves on a bird, it's a puzzle, and you have to say an animal. Comes Rav Yehuda and says in a bird until you shech the veshet and the vridin. Meaning what? Meaning mechta. Kilomar, what's this saying? Rashi throws in a kilomar when it's not so clear. Kilaimar! So Rashi throws in this kilomar to say it's not so clear. It says mechta al mechta. That if the oaf is half and half, meaning that it's half shechted, half not shechted. It's as if the whole thing is shechted. Shachat shnei. Wait, we're not up to that. Mechta al mechta. Wow, there's no Rashis on this Gemara, on this Tanya Kavasei. The Rav Chisda. Shachat shnei chetzi simanim. You shecht two halves of the siman on a chicken is puzzle, and you don't have to say vehema. Rav Yehuda comes and says that a chicken, until you shecht the veshet, the esophagus, and the vridin, and the veins. So why is that a Tanya, like why is that go like Rav Chisda, who said that it's only about the blood, and here it says that shishchat veshet and the vridin, maybe implying that the vridin is not part of shechting the siman. Yeah, shishchat the veshet, the siman, and the vridin. I don't know. Rashi didn't say anything. What do we have though? Before we have to blibe and then come back to it, maybe see a Rambam to explain it. We have another helper, someone that we don't see before Rashi, even though he chronologically predated Rashi. It's on the side of the Gemara. Avimari is inside of your Gemara. I don't know. Rivka is not inside of your Gemara. So it's not the Shita Mikveh. Shita Mikveh is after Rashi. But here it's Rabbeinu Gershom. It's not in your Gemara. It's only in my Gemara. Oh, you have it? Amazing. Rabbeinu Gershom. Rabbeinu Gershom, it's not Rivka's Gemara, but Rivka, if you want, you can look in that one. Just to get an idea, it would be good to get an idea for who this Rabbeinu Gershom is. I'll tell you guys something very exciting. Rivka might have heard this from me before. I don't know if I ever
This
told
is the Rabbeinu Gershom with the
No,
different guy.
not Rashi's Rebbe, Rabbeinu Gershom.
That's what I meant. The guy-
Rabbeinu Gershom, that was Rashi's Rebbe's Rebbe in Germany. Rashi was in France, but he actually, when he was a kid, he went to Germany to go learn yeshiva, and he learned from the students of Rabbeinu Gershom. But this is a different Rabbeinu Gershom, even. This Rabbeinu Gershom was I'm pretty sure it was a different Rabbeinu Gershom. Not Rabbeinu Gershom or Agola. That's Rashi Rabbeinu Gershom. This Rabbeinu Gershom, along with Rabbeinu Hananel, who's on the side of the Gemara, these were the two Rebbeim of none other than the Heliga Rif.
Really?
Yeah. So, yeah, the Rebbeim of the Rif. And the Rif, we like to say, is the first Rishon. So, Rabbeinu Gershom was one of the Gaonim, according to that.
Yeah.
It's a gain. And so, Tanya Kavaseder of Chisda. So we have a brisa that's like Rav Chisda. And we weren't able to understand how exactly is this brisa like Rav Chisda. Comes Rabbeinu Gershom, not playing around. He says, "V'la'olam be'ov shelo b'vehema umishum dam." Psh. What's the raya of Rav Chisda here? It was from the first statement of Rav Chisda that Rabbi Yehuda was only talking about a bird. I'll show you a raya that is only about the bird. And the raya is because Rabbi Yehuda says in the oaf, in the bird, you have to cut one and the vridin. So we have a brisa like Rav Chisda that is only about the bird. Thank you, Rabbeinu Gershom. A Helig Gon comes in to save the day. Okay. So now it is time to see the Helig Rambam. So we open up the Helig Rambam in our Ein Mishpat Ner Mitzvah, and we have to do a double take. You know, like someone who looks at the, they get a tab, a receipt, and it was way more expensive than they thought. They say, "Oh, thanks for the tab, thanks for the tab," and they go through. You know, like, so we're looking and we're astounded to find that there's no Rambam. We go back to the Mishnah and it says, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Ad Yishchod Esavridin on Chav Zayin Amar Aleph. We go to the astounded to find out the Rambam does not talk about vein. Why not? How did the Rambam learn the Gemara? That we throw away Rav Yehuda's statement entirely? I mean, we did see a taste viz. Actually, but now it is time to see the Shulchan Aruch. And so where is the Shulchan Aruch? I have some. I wanna. It's my mitzvah. No, okay. They're here.
Thank you.
It's Imarasi. So, hey, Mom, look at this picture. Look at this picture. This is the neck of a chicken. And there's an argument, do you have to cut the vein of the chicken or not?
Well, that's way above like what I.
It's okay. It's okay. First you saw a picture. Slowly. So we go see a Shulchan Aruch. We said we want to see a Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch, and it's in Yoredea. Rivka, can you give it out here? Oh, wait, maybe it's in there. No, we didn't bring it. So Okay, so Mishnah Torah. Let me look in there for a second. For a second, hold on. Let me look. Dad, you watch me. You watch me check the entire Mishnah Torah. Ram doesn't mention it, but but we could see until we get the Shulchan Aruch with the Nosei Kalims. It's the first Yoredea. So in the back of my Gemara, I have fancy schmancy Gemara that learns itself.
We're doing.
I see Shulchan Aruch in Yoredea. You can look on Safaria if you like. I'm going to go to the back until we get the actual Sefer. Rivka, when you walk in, it's right on that side, right on the other side, right on the right. That's where I keep my Shulchan Aruchs. And we're looking for a Yo Day. It's Aruch Chaim. It's Yoredea Aleph. It's not Aruch Chaim. It's Yoredea Aleph. And so we go to Shulchan Aruch and we see Yoredea Aleph. And
This is the Shulchan Aruch.
Shulchan Aruch. What does it say? Shulchan Aruch Yoredea Simin Chaf Beis Sif Aleph. Yo.
Tell me what it is again. What's it?
Chaf Aleph, Chaf Beis Aleph. Of Tzarech Lishchot Havridin. So the Shulchan Aruch. Oh, perfect. Thank you. I'm sorry. If you want to look at it in a book, even though no difference. Okay. If you want to look at the book, you can see it from here. So we go to Yoredea. Chav Aleph Aleph. Oh, that would even be also great. Okay. Chav Aleph Aleph. Sorry, Chav Beis Aleph. My bad. Chav Beis Aleph. Be'of Tzarech Lishchot Havridin. So the Shulchan Aruch paskins against Rambam here, and he says that you have to cut the vridim. Perush chutim shehein yotzi adam. Zagt. I've married. He said zagt the Rama veini belaz.
Yeah.
Vein.
Yeah.
Oh, lenakvam. So you have to shech them or to pierce them, meaning it's not about the shechita as we saw picture out in our Gemara. How long can you wait until you can't pierce it anymore? Well, it's still flapping around like a babkin. I saw some pirkuses. When they did the shita on the duck, I was holding it from the pirkus. So, b'shashu mefarches shadayin adam cham. It's still hot. Kadayin sheyatzav aloyis karer. It's not gonna cool down. The socho inside of it. Ve'im lo asachen. If you didn't do this, lo yatsi lenu shalem. Don't make full a complete bird, but split it up. You know, this is the pulki, this is the breast, this one and that one. Lo yatsi lenu shalem. Ve'im tzal'ehu shalem yashlich avridin v'yichtoch sevivan. And if you yatzilenu shalem, so you have now a whole roast, what are you going to do? Yashlich havridim v'yichtoch sevivan. You have to get rid of the if you devein that part, yeah. Then I can also you have to cut everything that's touching it. You have to cut the surface area. V'yichtoch sevivan, cut around it. It says kedei netila, as much as you could. Shehu ke'ove etzba. You take as much as a finger's thickness. No. Fingers. Zak de Chama. Hine im nimlach kach ve'im nimlach kach masirin achar chutim b'shari. So if you salted it, you just have to get rid of the chutim. Shari, v'shari liklov saviv achutin. You just, you just peel around the chutim. V'im bishlo shalim. That's what we talked about. If you roasted it, shalim, right? But what if you cooked it, boiled it, shalim? For example, what if you had a goose, put it in boiling water? Then what would you have? What would you have? V'im bishlo. So if you had some boiled goose, shalim, complete, you had a full boiled goose. Minager achutin, v'ashar. So you take out the veins. V'ashar im yesh b'kol mashe b'kadera k'dei levatel v'hadam shebekol achutin b'samech mutter. So this you didn't. If you roasted it, all you have to do is just peel it off, right? Because when you roast it, peel off the vein, peel off the meat that touched the vein, and you got rid of all the blood. But what about if you boil it? Now the blood has entered the water. And so now everything's a problem. What are you going to do? Peel the entire thing? So there's a different solution here. If you boil it in bishlu, you had a goose, put it in hot water. Now you have boiled goose. If it's a complete boiled goose, mechatet, you dig it, umenaker achutim. So you still have to get rid of the veins. Bashar, and the rest of it, is it still kosher? Im yesh b'kol mashe b'kadera k'dei levatel hadam. The blood that's in the veins, it's less than 1/60th. So then it's mutter. Says the Rama, v'im esiru harosh mimenu lo mikri shalem. Wow. If you already took the entire head off and you have the entire body of the thing, it's not called complete. It's not called shalim, and and you don't have to do this whole vreed vein take off, right? You don't take the veins off of the. Lechein nagu laziro mina ovos. Therefore, so what's the minhag? Take it off of the bird, take the head off. Oh, when we went to go see a shechita, it's so funny. Eli Schechter, like Rivka was like feeding some of. She was feeding, yeah. So Yeshiva's Geula show went to go see a shechita. Yeshiva's Girlas show went to go feed like adorable little goats, right? So Rivka was coming back from feeding the goats, and Schechter's just at the time that he removed the neck, the head, yeah.
I was like, can I pass through?
And so Rivka's passing through. He's like, yes, sure. He's like, can I pass through? He's like, you want a bite? Quack, quack.
Literally, this bird was staring me in the face. It was so funny. It was disarming.
Yeah. Oh my God, it was wild. So anyways, that's the minhag, to take it off of the head.
Play with the head.
What? Oh, Psigresha. Avi Meiri was saying that back in the day, they didn't have toys. They didn't have action figures. They didn't have light bright. They didn't have chess even. Maybe they had chess, but maybe okay. So before the kid knew how to play chess, what do you do? Take the head and give it to the kid. Oh, I got you a head of a chicken. Oh, great, I got a chicken. My dad gave me a goose. My dad gave me a giraffe. So the question is asked in the Torah, well, what if you're cutting the head off of the chicken just to give it to your kid so that your kid has something to play with? You're not trying to kill the animal. So this is considered davar she'einu mischaven. You're trying to kill the animal. You just want to give your kid a toy. You just want to give your kid but that wasn't your intention, and you're only chayav if your intention was to be Mechal Shabbos, is to do the animal. So are you chayav or not? So this is a case in Shabbos called, obviously I just mentioned it,
Psik ratio.
Psik, which means that you chop the head off, but you weren't doing it to kill the animal. You were doing it just to get the head. So since it's a psik, though, since it's impossible to do it any other way, it's usher, because it's a psik. It's an automatic thing, like it's a cutting off of the head,
Secration means.
cutting off of the head.
And it's specific for Shabbos, and it's usher because there's no other way to get the toy.
It's davar she'eino mischavein. And so even though it's not usher deraisa, because in the end of the day, your intention was not to shech the animal.
Another example,
Yeah.
if you need a chair
Yeah.
and you got to bring it from here to there,
Here.
drag it
Yeah.
across the field.
Oh, that was I was going to use from the book.
And the furrows,
Right.
it makes them.
But you don't want it.
So
to get
if-
off the field. You just want the chair, but there's no other way to get this heavy chair. So it's psik ratio.
No. So if it's a chritz,
Right.
then you do it because that's considered a psik. The chicken's definitely going to die if you cut his head off. So in that case, you can't, because it's 100% going to happen. But if it may make a furrow and it may not make a furrow, since your intention was to move the chair and not to make a furrow, it's mutter. Because it's not a psik ratio, because it's not definitely going to make a furrow. But by psik ratio, that's in the case where it's definitely going to die.
Got it.
Because when you cut the head off of a chicken, it's definitely going to die.
Okay.
By the way, Eli Schechter, it could be that his kids are playing with heads of chickens. You know, but some of our kids. Be a sheikh and give them, you know, who probably gives his kids chicken heads? Nassan Kirshner. He says this is a toy that has a hashkacha from the Gemara. Yeah, tire toys. Oh, like this, like a kaparo skin?
Yeah, but the real thing.
Yeah, no, Nassan would say this shot in his brother. But so the im is ziru arosh mimenu lo mikri shalim. And if he took the head off, right, it's not considered full, and that's why the minhag was to take the head off, ashlemos, and check later. Simin ayin vav im lo nishru nishchatu havridin. What if you didn't? What's the din? Check simin ayin vav. Now it's very interesting. The Rambam just doesn't mention a thing. Should we see simin ayin vav? Let's see if it's in this one. All right, it's in. Simin ayin vav. We go to Yoredeh. So this is in Hilchos Melicha. There's a lot of halachas in the shechita. It's not just about cutting the neck, but there's also a lot of halachas you have to know. And this is our first time going into Hilchos Melicha, so I'm very excited. Dine bazar litzli. So it just says Dine bazar litzli if you roast it. Hatzli eino tzarech melicha. You can take an animal and roast it, and you don't have to salt it. Lefi sha'esh shoev es adam, because the fire also sucks up the blood. Salt sucks up the blood. Fire sucks up the blood. I have a question, halacha l'maisa. I'm trying to clarify it. What about? So then we just gotta roast the necks, and then we'll be okay, even though we didn't salt it because we burned it. We froze it without salting it. And so, can you salt after freezing? I don't know the answer. But if we roast it, it doesn't need to be salted. L'chora. So we might have to roast those necks. Sha'ez shoev adam shabo. Because the fire sucks the blood. Shoev. How do we say vacuum in Hebrew? Modern Hebrew? Something with shoev, I think, like sha'avan or something. I don't know. Shoev. And something interesting, I always like to teach good, interesting etymological things. The word shoev is to suck, right? Is to suck in. The word shoev, is to aspire to something. Shoev, I don't know if there's a connection.
Shoei Lavak.
So we have Simchas Beis Shoeva. That's where we see this word, right? Shoeva Avak. You looked it up?
Yeah.
A vacuum cleaner. And also Simchas Beis Shoeva because we are taking, right? Taking water from the Nachal, from the river. And so, but the age, it sucks in, it draws in the blood that's in it. Me'atzmo. Achal im dam achar natav etzli afilu oso dam utzodein blah blah blah. Ratza limloach. We're not going into Hilchos Melichin, even though I do want to take a look at it. Maybe Lach Lamaisa soon. Now I'm wondering if we have the Aruch HaShulchan. Yordea Aleph. It might be outside. It might be outside. Sure, it's okay. We have 10 minutes. I would love to see that Aruch HaShulchan. But we see that the Rambam doesn't paskin these halachas.
Why is that?
Let's look into the Gemara and see. Let's see Tosfos.
But why wasn't the Rambam?
So there's no way to know. We have to figure it out. The way to figure it out is by looking into the Gemara and seeing maybe there's a deal, maybe there's a reason, maybe
Maybe there's something in the Gemara.
because look, where did they tell us on Daf Chav Zayin Amud Aleph? They said Chav Aleph Amud Aleph. We were at Chav Beis. You're there. That's our Chaim? Okay. Chav Aleph Amud Aleph. Shiur HaShchita V'Kamusa, but it's actually Chav Beis Amud Aleph again, which we just saw, the Chav Beis Amud Aleph of the Vridin. The Rambam doesn't paskin. Okay, so what do? We want to see the Rambam. You know what we can actually do? If we really want to get a good, we can look at the back of Rivka's Gemara. In the back of Rivka's Gemara, sometimes they have like really good iyun on the different Rambams and the Ein Mishpat. So here they might bring it, and I'm going to want to check it. But first, let's see the Shach. Be'ov tzarich lishchot, right? He says, Be'ov tzarich lishchot. He says, Afilu daito b'shas shchita lenatcho ever. Even if your intention was to cut it piece to piece, and so really you don't have the reason that you needed to cut the vein. However, darko litzloso. Shkayach. Since its way to do it is to litzloso, to cut it, to roast it complete. Chashina, we're worried. Dilma mimlach aluya. Maybe he'll go back and he'll say, actually, I'll just give it the old number wonder, you know. The Cain comes of Aposkin. Avridin. Because of Rabbeinu Yerucham, says Rabbeinu Yerucham. We're in the Shach now. Rabbeinu Yerucham says, Ov the tzarich lishchot belepachlos beis vridin. You have to cut at least two, right? Because it says vridin. We're medayik on the vridin, and you have to at least cut two, says Rabbeinu Yerucham. Ad kan, until now. V'chein hu b'tosefta, and also it's like that in Tosefta, and it's in also Mevia Ha Mordechai. Da Mordechai. Wow. We saw the Mordechai in Shir number 1, and we saw the Mordechai in Shir number 105. I'm married with us in both of them. Full circle, full Mordechai circle. Became because of Abach, Bechenu Bechidush Rashba. Okay. So that is the Shach. We don't know whether I'm now Rivka. I have a job for you. Look in the back of your Gemara. You're going to find, so Rivka Gemara is it's the Merkaz Harav Kook Gemara. It's called Halacha Brura Be'er Halacha. The Halacha Brura is that it brings every Rambam on the bottom, so you don't have to even open a book. You can just see what the Rambam says. And in the back is Be'er Halacha. Those are not written by Rav Kook himself. Rav Kook himself was the one who shut every Rambam. But these are different Talmidei Chacham that learn in Merkaz who bring sugyas on different things in the Ein Mishpat and Eretz Mitzvah. And I'm curious to see if it's going to be in the back of Rivka's, if you could see it. in the back. In the back, you have to look for it. You can.
I'm looking for the halacha brura, or
My glasses. The halacha brura, yeah.
yeah.
The halacha brura. Prayer halacha brura. Okay. So we go to the Aruch HaShulchan, the Heilige Aruch HaShulchan. Shchita v'nekivas havridin. And the Aruch HaShulchan says like this. Yeit b'balei chayim shnei vridin. So in animals, there's two vrids, two veins. Eitzah simanim, next to the trachea and esophagus. Vein shnei gidim dovkim b'tzavar al shnei tzidei kaneh hooray, and to see the Parish Rambam. Okay, we actually didn't see the Parish Rambam yet on these, so maybe we will. I like to see the Parish Rambam after I finish the Gemara on a specific Mishnah, then go back and see the Rambam, do Chazara on the Mishnah. I say I like to do that. I've never done it yet, but I like to do it, and I hope to do it at the end of this Mishnah. Not once, just had the idea. I like it. Yeah. So Vitzavu Chachamim, and the Chachamim commanded, Shebe'ez Shchita Yishrot Gam Es Havridin, also cut the vridin, the veins, O Inakvan, or pierce them, B'shashu Mefarches. Right? How long do you have if you didn't cut the vrid? The whole time that it's doing its death throes. Hold still! Hold still! Try to get the vrid! It's still hot. Kedei sheyatza adam v'lo yizkarer, the blood goes out and doesn't get heated, cooled off inside the vein. Levisha wrote down of nigrarim achar avridim shabitzavar. Wow, most of the blood in our body passes through these two neck veins. The neck vein connected to the head vein. Head vein connected to the brain vein, right. And the brain vein connected to the main vein. Okay, so Adam v'lo yizkarer b'socho, and it doesn't cool off inside of it because most of the bloods in an animal and in a chicken are dragged after the neck vein. V'lo malach, v'lo or tuchal lisho is dashem. Wow. Salt and fire is not enough to draw the blood out of it, out of the neck vein. V'lo havi kedama ivarim. It's not just like the plain old limb blood, shalom pires that didn't leave the body yet. When you shecht the blood, it's mikaneach. Mikaleach, rather. How do you say shower in Hebrew? Miklachat. Showers out. Right? V'mizanek. Mizanek. Lizanek is to like leave. So I'm blabbing on that word. But it flows out. I assume it means the same flow out. It nooks out of there. Derech makom hashchita, the way of the place of the shchita. That's the most dangerous run on the entire mountain. You know, they call it the paths derech, this derech, that derech makom hashchita is like a triple black. The oker v'nizdazea mimekomo. It gets oker, it gets dislodged, and it shakes out of its place. Kol dama nefesh latzes. All of the blood just pours out from there. Because alo yichtichu, and when you don't cut it, the vridin, when you don't cut the veins, nishar adam b'hem, the blood stays in the v'gam mitpashe lebasar shesaviv havridin, and also it oozes. Mitpashet, lashon pashet herenstein, simple. But it oozes out. to the meat. It spreads. Pasha is like spread, and spreading is simple. When you spread something out, it's simple on the floor, right? Spread out. So it spreads to the meat that's near the vein. Ve'eno yotze lo alidei malicha, and it's not good enough to salt it, and lo alidei tzliya or roast it. Kozman sha'of shalem, the entire time that the bird is complete. Ava alidei chaticha umalicha yotze adam, but through doing cutting and salting, the blood will leave. Afilu l'kadera shafir dami, and it's even good. And so you can do it. Wait. When the chicken is full, but if you cut the chicken and then salt it, so then the blood comes out. Afilu l'kadera. Sorry, it's good. It's good. You can do it. You can cook it. And okay, so we saw a Gemara. We saw Rashi. He was the Rishon. We saw Shulchan Aruch, saw Aruch Shulchan. Great day. And I could see by the time on the wall that it's time to tell to one and all that the Muslims, they do a type of shechita, but they only saw what they were able to see and copy from us. And they didn't see what we do afterwards, and say they don't care about the blood, right? Muhammad, by the way, he used to work for a yid, and he wanted to convert, and they wouldn't let him convert. So he's like, all right, maybe I'll just start my own thing. It's one mahalach, I don't know. I can see by the time of the wall that it's time to wish to one and all goodbye, farewell, so long, adieu, stay good, stay warm, stay loose, adieu manvu, goodbye until we meet again. Shkoyach is last year before Pesach, last year of Chorif Zman, 105 shirim this Chorif Zman, maybe we don't to break that record next Chorif Zman. And now we have a Kayit Zman coming up. Mirtz Hashem Kayit Zman starting first day of Chol Moed, if we're Zocha. And Mirtz Hashem will be Zocha. Shkoyach Gadol everyone, Kol Tuv.
Let's bring all this farm.
It's fine.
It's not at the season.
Yeah.